Forward TV. The world is thinking.
One of the things that I would say, and you probably won't hear this out of too many present or former law enforcement officials, is there needs to be harder questions asked when decisions and policies are announced. There just seems to be so much of, oh, okay, that's good, and just to report that out there and no analysis of what the consequences are, no historical perspective. For example, 1999, a statute gets passed in the United States leading to less regulation in the banking industry. New president takes office and says, we've got to get these regulatory agencies off the back of business. It'll be good for the economy. We're going to, basically, not necessarily neuter, but significantly reduce the capacity of SEC, FDIC, other regulatory agencies. 9/11 happens. We have thousands of agents diverted to the war on terror, prevent the next terrorist act. And suddenly, 2008 comes along. We're shocked and outraged. What happened to the economy? How'd this happen? When so much of it was caused by fraud and could have been predicted in 1999-2000, the historical perspective being what happened in the 80s during the Reagan administration when we reduced regulation. We had the biggest savings and loan crisis, and it cost the taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. This is deja vu all over again. Second policy, not questioned, is that, yes, the FBI diverted 2,000 agents approximately to prevent the next terrorist act, and that had to be done on September 12th, 2001, probably October 12th, 2001. 7 years later, the 2,000 agents diverted from drug investigations were never put back into the drug arena. DEA was never able to backfill for that basically sucking chest wound in investigations of the Mexican drug cartels, and then, in fact, had to be diverted to Afghanistan because suddenly, understandably, the poppy heroin production increased there. Calderon declares war on the drug cartels and doesn't have a backup to speak of, doesn't have the kind of partnership among law enforcement agencies. This is not something that should be shocking, what's happened in Mexico.
So it's a journalistic failure as well, though?
It's a combination. And I think part of the journalistic failure, you can also attribute to, in some cases, public apathy. I was in South America last week and couldn't get CNN in English. Was watching BBC, and the coverage of Obama's trip to Europe was more centered on Michelle hugging the Queen, Michelle hugging and what she and Sarkozy's wife wore in Paris. And so this is endemic. I mean, it's BBC as well. Here in our press reporting, we may talk about the most serious event, and it might be a little facetious, but it would be, a nuclear bomb was just dropped on Chicago, 8 million people are dead. But before we get to that, so-and-so's rehab program is going downhill, and her next movie might be affected by that. And, so we see some of this kind of frivolous reporting or less than the most important type reporting. And it's hard to say whose fault that is. It is causing the newsrooms to take second place, third place, fourth place to entertainment news, sporting news, gossip news, all of that type of thing.